Are we on? All right, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. So the first that we have is a presentation of the 40101D, Preventing Outages and Enhancing the Resilience of the Electric Grid Applications to the Build Kansas Matching Grant Fund. So Jason, I believe you're going to be presenting us with the applications that we have today, or with the grid.
And it helps me on a day-to-day basis, keeping the office going, and we do a great job there. Also, thank you to Secretary Calvin Reed and the rest of the Hub Steering Committee. Lynn Retz is here today. I'll introduce her in a second, for their oversight and advice as we keep the Hub going. Start off today with the Build Kansas Fund application review. We have a record number of 22 Build Kansas Fund applications to review today. I'll start by saying all applications have met all the requirements in terms of match and deadline, and were approved at our May 14th steering committee meeting. I'm going to dispense with some of the in the past, we've kind of read through all the numbers on the slide and all the text. I'm going to dispense with some of that and just cut to the meat of the project summary and Build Kansas Fund request amount. And I know more recently we've done a much better job of putting in maps and images of the projects. I've dispensed again with some of that this time. I do think once you've seen one power pole or one aerial of a rural airport, you've seen them all. But we will get back to that once we have fewer applications. But I know we are pressed for time today. Let me go back to my notes here. With that, again, we're fortunate to have Lynn Retz, Director of Government Relations for the Kansas Corporation Commission, with us here today. Lynn is a member of our Hub Steering Committee representing the Corporation Commission, and therefore she has an additional insight into these grant applications. She's going to provide a brief introduction to the 4101D Grid Resiliency Program and the Kansas Corporation Commission process involved in that. And then I'll walk you through the applications one by one. But with that, Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'd like to turn it over to Lynn Retz.
That's fine. Lynn?
Chairman, committee members, thank you. So as you'll recall, this is our second round with the 40101D. We were before you last year with several applications. You approved 11 of those. All 11 of those have now been approved by DOE. They are in various stages at this point. We did have to put a pause on those, just so you know, when we had the freeze on federal funds. So some of them are a little behind where we would have anticipated at this point, but DOE did approve all 11. This time around, we had 26 applications that if all 26 would have been approved, it would have been a project cost of $29.4 million worth of project costs. We approved 11 for your, or 13 for your consideration today. It comes to basically a total of around 7, make sure I get this right, of approximately, we had $6.5 million in federal funds this time around. With the match requirements, it would be about 9.7 total in project costs. As you know, the 40101D projects are an intent to improve the grid across the state, the grid infrastructure. And so I'm not going to go into a lot of the detail because I think you guys are all very familiar with some of those issues. A lot of the projects today are around poles, which is a significant issue. A lot of them are more than 60 years old in the infrastructure that you'll be considering today. So if you have any other detailed questions, Rick Pemberton, the Energy Division Director, and myself are available to also answer questions. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Lynn. And I would say with 26 applications, obviously you can identify the need that we have in our grid system. As you said, power poles are almost 60 years old in a lot of these applications.
Yes, and a lot of them are wood. And as you can imagine, that doesn't hold up for long, especially in extreme weather. So yeah, we do have a criteria that we do go through when we're looking at the applications, both from a need, a financial, what we have to spend, because in federal dollars, when you're looking at only getting a little over 6 million, that doesn't go very far when you're talking about grid infrastructure.
And you had kind of mentioned this before, so there was a federal fund freeze, but that has resumed. So this program is still active, because we do have some programs that we had within the Build Kansas program to forward onto the federal government that have been defunded.
Yes. We have had some communications with DOE. The Grid Resiliency 401D grants, we have been told, will continue. And we do anticipate additional funding for at least 2 more rounds. Always subject to change. I don't want to make any promises. DOE has also told us this time around they will be doing an expedited review process. Last time it took several months once we packaged these all up to DOE for them to review and send back to us with approval. We've been told they're going to expedite that review on their side. So hopefully these projects can get started a little bit quicker than the ones from last year.
Okay, thank you. Jason?
And are the slides showing? Can they? Okay. So start, and you're not going to be able to see this up on the screen, but I know it's in your packages of the slides. But this is just a summary chart of all 13 that have been forwarded by the Kansas Corporation Commission for approval, and that we'll be bringing to you one by one today. The 4101D is short for the Preventing Outages and Enhancing the Resilience of the Electrical Grid. It's a significant commitment of Build Kansas funds. If all of them are approved today, it's a total of $3.496 million, or approximately 10% of the $34.7 million that's been committed so far. They're fairly straightforward projects, and they will be, after this, as Lynn mentioned, be forwarded to the Department of Energy for their consideration. And then the only other thing I will point out as we get to them, the last 2 we'll consider are, and this is the way they came in, they're together, Luray and Savenberg are both requesting local cost share waivers under our policy. So in general, these projects provide a number of long-term benefits, including reduced maintenance cost, improved response to outages, and enhanced public safety. They'll also support the region's infrastructure, healthcare, and public services with specific benefits for their critical infrastructure like hospitals, communication facilities, and public safety operations. Did want to start by pointing out the geographic distribution of the projects that are being recommended. They do appear throughout the state. As you know, we have 8 different economic development districts that we're tasked with dispersing funds in, and we do have projects in each of those districts, excepting the Mid-American Regional Council, or MARC region, and that's just because of the nature of the program focused on rural electric. With that, bring to you the first application, 2025-101, City of Cawker City. This is out of the North Central region. It is for to replace and upgrade all aging utility poles that power the city to prevent outages, improve safety, and strengthen the community resilience. I did, again, want to reiterate by saying that all the applications that are brought forward meet the federally required match of 48.33%. 15% of that is passed through from the Kansas Corporation Commission from their state allocation. They all also were submitted on time for our consideration for the steering committee last Wednesday, and were approved by the steering committee on the 22nd, or I'm sorry, on May 14th. You will see on the application cover sheets that some of them have a little discrepancy. Some of them were submitted earlier in January. We did allow the applicants to wait until they were selected by Kansas Corporation Commission to move forward before applying to Build Kansas Fund, just because for all 26 of them to apply, it would have been onerous on us and on them to have to review those applications. So these are the, we encourage those that to apply once they were actually accepted by the Kansas Corporation Commission. But in this case, Cawker City, to return to that, again, I won't read all the numbers here on the screen, but this is for power poles and their components. So not just the poles themselves, but the components that connect them. They've been aging, rotting, or have become inadequate to function properly. This is for the engineering, materials, and labor costs, and they've been experiencing up to 6 annual outages due to these failing power poles. So with that, they've requested $37,935.43 from the Build Kansas Fund, and we bring this application to you today for your final advice.
Any questions in regards to this application by the city of Cawker City? Senator Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So earlier, you had mentioned, already been mentioned about the age of some of the poles across the state. And I was just wondering about with Cawker City, do you have any idea about the age of their system?
You know, they didn't provide an age, and I will have some for later applicants.
Lynn is giving you the hook.
Some of them are 1910.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Lynn.
Any further questions in regards to this application? Any concerns? Not seeing any, we'll go ahead and forward this application on to the DOE. Next application, I believe, is the Sumner County Electrical Cooperative.
This is 2025-102. It's in South Central Kansas Economic Development District. This project is to replace deteriorating transmission poles to improve grid reliability, enhance safety, and protect against severe weather-related outages. Here they are replacing 67 poles in urgent need of replacement, and then as well as the assemblies on an additional 80 poles that themselves won't be replaced, but the equipment on them will be. Along with the installation of new rigging, arms, insulators, pole bands, links, guards, and other necessary hardware. Now, if you ask me what all of those are, I couldn't tell you. Lynn or Rick could. But it's to provide power to over a quarter of the Sumner County's or electric cooperatives members. They also included a 15% contingency on labor and materials to account for unforeseen expenses. And this is one, and I'm just including a little bit more detail from their application to provide some additional information. This request represents more than 70% of the cooperative's annual maintenance budget, which is a kind of common theme for a lot of these and why they're applying for this program. With that, they are requesting $260,997.56 in Build Kansas Fund request. And we bring it to you today for your final advice.
All right, are there any questions? I guess I have a question. This might be more for Lynn. I'm noticing that we have quite a few cooperatives that are seeking applications with us today. When we had the first round, if you could refresh my memory, did we have cooperatives in the last one?
We did have some, probably not as many as we have today. But I have to go back and look at exactly how many co-ops we had.
And how extensive is will this impact their territory?
So I'd have to go back and look at each one, but like on this one, this will impact the rural towns of Anson, Rome, South Haven, and Silverdale.
Okay.
And they have 60 of the 67 polls that failed an audit. That shows that there is significant integrity risks for them.
And was that audit conducted by the KCC?
No.
Who did the audit?
I think they partner with other co-ops and KEC to help conduct those audits.
All right, okay, thank you. Any other questions for either Jason or for Lynn? Any concerns? All right, seeing none. This will be forwarded on to the Department of Energy as well. So next we have the Wheatland Electric Cooperative.
This is project 2025-103, Wheatland Electric Cooperative. This project is for undergrounding power lines, upgrading conductors, and replacing wooden poles and durable iron poles to strengthen system resilience. This is targeting critical feeder sections along U.S. Highway 400, serving both the urban and rural areas. It's 4 sub-projects. Mentioned the undergrounding 2 miles of overhead lines serving Holcomb, upgrading the 6-mile stretch of backup line with ductile iron poles, enhancing a substation line for Lakin, and upgrading the Kansas Avenue line for Garden City. With that, this is a $417,556.24 Bill Kansas Fund request, and we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, any questions? Any concerns? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and forward this on as well. Next is the City of Beloit.
City of Beloit, number 2025-104. This project is to replace utility poles, upgrade key circuits and switches, and move lines underground to improve grid reliability, enhance safety, and protect the community against severe weather-related damages. This will replace 2 key transfer stations that supply most of the industrial customers in town, including their hospital, grocery store, and fuel station. Also, tying these 2 circuits together keeps power flowing from either direction in case of outages, so that increases resiliency in particular areas of the city. They've been seeing more severe outages caused by broken poles, down lines, and electrical equipment struck by lightning and extreme weather events. And so they are bringing this request to us for $209,070.45 in Build Kansas Fund. And with that, we'll bring this application to you for final advice.
Representative Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I know the answer because I think it's on page 9, but all of the city ones are all municipality owned? They're municipal utilities?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I thought. All right, thank you.
Any other questions in regards to the application for the City of Beloit? What were the, you said there were some damaged poles due to extreme weather events. Was that wind or winter months?
Yeah, tornadoes and Winter Storm Uri taking down poles on the city's main electrical feed line to town is what they cited.
Okay. Len, did you have a comment?
Some of it is wind. Tornadoes are the primary 2 in this particular area. They did have some damage during Winter Storm Uri, but most recently it's been wind and tornadoes.
All right. Any concerns in regards to this application? All right, seeing none, this will be forwarded on as well. Next, we have the City of Glen Elder.
Glen Elder is number 2025-105. This project is to replace outdated electric meters with radio read technology to improve their reliability and speed up outage response. In this case, the city maintenance crews will install 272 new electric meters to residences and businesses across town. Replacing with the new radio read technology will allow for the ability to immediately signal outages as well as verify when power is restored. The meters can also be used to identify potential reliability problems before they become an outage. With that, the City of Glen Elder requests $10,818.15 in Build Kansas Fund, and we bring it to you for final advice.
How many electric meters will be able to replace with $35,000?
They are citing 272. It will be done by the city maintenance crew. So that's, I think, primarily the equipment costs, and they're doing the installation costs.
All right. Committee, any questions? Senator Petty.
This isn't specific to, and maybe I'll wait till we finish, but I'm just curious as we go along here, have you looked at with these applications, if they're all approved, the total number of Kansans that are going to be impacted by these improvements?
We have not totaled that number up, or at least I haven't. I don't know if it...
Lynn?
We can get that for you.
Yeah, I think that's, when we talk about the viability programs and their impact across the state, I think that's important just talk about how many people are being impacted.
And we have focused on rural areas because those are the ones that generally don't have the financial resources,
Right.
but have some of the greatest risk when it comes to grid reliability. So when you look at some of those numbers, and we'll try to, present it in a couple of different ways for you, but we'll get you the numbers so that you can kind of see an overall, and then kind of we'll figure out from co-op area or from district area how to present that.
Right, and I think also it might look as a small percentage of population to the total state, but it probably is a large percentage when you talk about rural.
Right.
Okay, so I think that'd be important too.
Significantly.
Thank you.
Well, like one of your previous applications, Jason, you had mentioned that they could even impact parts of Garden City.
Yes.
So, I mean, you're talking about a larger community that would still be impacted if this was to be awarded. So, I mean, it all flows together, whether it be a small community or a much larger community. Any other questions? All right, seeing none and seeing no concerns, this will be forwarded on to the Department of Energy as well. Next, we have the City of Bronson.
Yes, number 2025-106, City of Bronson, is located on Highway 54 between Fort Scott and Iola. This project is to replace outdated wiring, transformers, insulators, and poles to improve power reliability and modernize the city's electrical system. They'll be replacing old copper wiring with aluminum wire, replacing all the old brown ceramic insulators, and upgrading outdated transformers and poles, as well as replacing 28 outdated system transformers containing PCBs. And with that, they have a Build Kansas Fund request of $125,522.75. And with that, we bring this application to you for final advice.
Committee, any questions? All right, seeing none. Oh, Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just looking through the applications, and I was kind of reading through, some of them also consider alternative funding sources, and it looks like City of Bronson did decide to increase their electric rates in order to contribute to the project. Do you know the total revenue that'll be generated? It looks like that's a phased-in approach. I was just curious. I'm hoping it doesn't create a huge economic burden for the citizens.
Jason. Or Lynn.
Can you give us a few minutes, because we do have some information on that, but I got to pull it out.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we could go back to that later if
Okay.
for efficiency's sake.
Yeah, it is a phased-in approach, but I need to get dollar amounts for you.
Okay, thank you.
And do you know if is it time sensitive? Like when the project's completed, will the rates go down, or is it going to stay stagnant?
I will get back with you on that one.
Okay, that's kind of in conjunction with
Yeah.
Representative Vaughn's question. All right. Any other questions in regards to this application? All right, seeing no concerns, this will be forwarded on as well. Next, we have the City of Jetmore. Jason.
Jetmore is 2025-107. This project is to replace failing utility poles to enhance reliability and strengthen resilience against severe weather throughout the community. Jetmore has a population of around 800. It's about 25 miles north of Dodge City, and have 1,100 utility poles serving approximately 620 meters. In this case, they replacing all poles that are 50 to 70 years old that were identified as red tagged or failing in the audit of the distribution system. They will be replacing those with wooden poles. The materials are a mixture of poles, transformers, conductors, and the associated items. Their longest outage lasted an entire week as 90-mile-an-hour winds, straight-line winds, toppled 24 transmission poles in a row. So they are bringing this forward with a request of $169,268.44 from the Build Kansas Fund, and we bring it to you today for your final advice.
All right, committee, are there any questions? I guess I have a question. This might go back to, I believe it was the city of Beloit, when I asked what damaged the poles. And so in these severe weather events, whether they be extreme winter weather or tornadoes or whatever the case may be that damage the poles, I would take it that they did not meet the criteria for FEMA in order to have these replaced. Just, I would say with the size of the communities, they don't meet that threshold.
Correct.
Okay. All right, thank you. Representative Clayton.
Thank you. And I just have a question just in general. As we're looking at this, notice it's a lot of, very small entities. And I haven't been on utilities since my first term, so I'm way out of left field here. But has consolidation ever been considered by any of these groups? I know I'm not supposed to say that word when it comes to education, and I do not, but it's worth asking.
It is, that is a word that gets a little touchy, we'll just say. There are some communities, we were just having a conversation, that need to have some tough conversations around those issues. Now, a lot of municipalities are not regulated by the KCC, so we can only make recommendations and suggestions. But that is an area that some of these communities probably need to really be looking at. But either way, even if they consolidate, you still have to have a reliable grid out there. The infrastructure has to be in place. But you're going to see in the very last two that we consider, the significant reason why they're asking for waiver of any contribution from the local level is because of resources. And one of the communities only has, I think, about less than 20,000 of revenues. That's not going to go very far.
Nope, I totally understand that. Thank you for the background and the explanation.
Representative Hoffman.
So I'm looking through this. So this one says the entity type is a distribution provider. Is that different than being part of the municipality utility or municipal utility?
Lynn?
I need to go back and look because I think this is one that is actually part of, are they part
Because
of?
the other one was too, Bronson was also.
That's part of their municipality. That's part of their municipal. That's how that was listed.
Oh, okay, so they're
On
still
the
part.
distribution provider, which the entity type, that's not how I would necessarily classify a lot of these when they get submitted to DOE.
Okay.
Okay?
So they're still a municipal utility?
They're still a municipal utility.
Okay, because
Okay.
several of them, I noticed the one before Bronson was the same way.
Yeah.
It wasn't listed.
That's not how we would classify this application going up to DOE.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have caught that before.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kind of a, I guess, tangential question, but I've noticed it in a couple applications when they speak to how the implementation of these grid updates and pole updates will lead to apprenticeship opportunities and training opportunities for local employees who are working on these projects. I was just wondering if you could speak to that a little bit and how that may contribute to future resilience of the grid, potentially.
Lynn? You might as well just stay up there.
Okay, so in a lot of these municipalities, they do have employees that help maintain their utilities. They partner a lot of times with Kansas Municipal Utilities or the Kansas Municipal Energy Association, KMEA. Some of these municipalities, they have aging staff. So what they are ultimately hoping to do with some of these projects is to be able to bring in a younger generation to learn the grid, to learn what it takes to keep the system operating. And so that's kind of what they're referring to in a majority of them. I can't tell you in all of them, but that's kind of where that partnership is coming from. KMU has a training facility associated with their down in McPherson, where they can bring them in and actually teach them about the various aspects, including having them climb a pole. And so that's where that partnership is coming in and trying to do the workforce development.
Thank you for sharing. I think that's a great secondary benefit of a lot of these grant funds. I think it's nice to see. Thank you.
It is an area that you will find is struggling, especially in the rural communities, is trying to find those individuals that will come in and learn the utility business and how to keep those facilities going, which is also another reason why some of them really do need to explore some additional collaborative discussions.
That was very diplomatic. Thank you.
Representative Sawyer-Clayton, did you have another question? No. Okay. Any other questions in regards to this application? Any concerns? Not seeing any. This will be forwarded on to the federal government as well. Next, we have Brown Atchison Electric Cooperative. Jason.
This is 2025-108. This project is to replace and upgrade aging transmission and distribution infrastructure to reduce voltage drops. At 60 years old, this transmission line is well beyond its useful life and is showing signs of failure. It serves nearly 1,000 members and 2 casinos, 7 housing sites at the Kickapoo Reservation. It's going to be 6.6 miles of transmission line upgrades, pole replacements, cross-arm replacements, and then anchor replacements. And with that, the request is $395,105.69 that we bring before you today for final advice.
All right, any questions in regards to this application? All right, seeing none and seeing no concerns, this will be forwarded on as well. Jason, the Blue Stem Electric Cooperative.
2025-109 is the Blue Stem Electric Cooperative. This project is to replace aging overhead and underground power lines to improve reliability and prevent outages. It's going to be replacing 15 miles of outdated copper, weld, and other conductors throughout its system. The lines targeted are either beyond their useful life or undersized and can't handle increased voltages during disruptive events. They also have 5 distribution lines totaling 12 miles and 1 feeder line of 3 miles that they're going to improve. These lines are between 44 and 82 years old. The distribution lines are. The feeder line is, they're proactively upgrading it, is only 43 years old. But both are part of the original infrastructure and are part of the request for $383,215.85 in Build Kansas Fund match. And we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, any questions in regards to this application? Concerns? Seeing none, this will be forwarded on as well. Next, we have the Donovan Electric Cooperative. Jason.
Donovan Electric Cooperative, 2025-110. This project is to rebuild the aging Blair substation to maintain power continuity and improve system resiliency. This serves over 1/3 of its nearly 1,600 members. It was built in 1977. It's a wooden structure that's severely compromised, so they're proactively replacing it with a modern metal structure with a longer service life that's capable of withstanding significant weather events. It currently serves 550 meters, but during extreme disruption events, it can support up to 1,560 meters, or nearly 98% of the cooperative's membership. With that, we bring this Build Kansas Fund request of $541,713.48 to the committee for final advice.
Committee, any questions?
Yeah.
I said something built in 77 is not old. The chairman and I are
you both
born in 77, so.
Thank you for that side note. Any concerns in regards to this application? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and forward this on as well. Next, we have the Flint Hills Rural Electric Cooperative. Jason.
This is 2025-111. This project is to replace aging copper weld lines, poles, and spans to improve system reliability, energy efficiency, and workforce sustainability. It's upgrading 24 miles of 70 to 80-year-old copper weld electric distribution lines in rural Geary County. The old copper design power lines are experiencing more than 3 times the power outages compared to those that meet their current construction design requirements. This is a request of $459,166.66 in Build Kansas funds that we bring to you today for final advice.
All right, committee, any questions in regards to this application? Concerns? All right, seeing none, this will be forwarded on as well. Next, we have the City of Luray. Jason.
City of Luray, 2025-112. This project is to replace aging overloaded interconnection substation with a modern higher capacity transformer to improve system reliability. Replace the existing substation with a modern pad mounted transformer. This substation was estimated to have been installed in the 50s or 60s, making it approximately 60 to 70 years old. As part of this project, they're going to double the current capacity of the transformer, enabling the city to handle higher electrical loads, especially during peak demand periods. This one was interesting for Luray, one of the peak periods is strain caused in part by the Midway Co-op's grain drying operations that's caused brownouts. So I thought that was an interesting anecdote to include. We'll note that this applicant is seeking an exemption from the local cash match suggestion of 5% of the non-federal match required. I will share first, this is our program guidance on the cost share expectation and the exclusion clause. So eligible applicants may provide detailed written justification for such a request. I excerpt that now on the next slide is the paragraph from their request. I highlighted just a portion of it. The match in this case, their local match, if they had provided the 5%, would have been $12,903. It's worth noting their population is only 166. For the total project, the total monetary impact to each customer is $5,425. Over 10 years, that the monthly impact on each customer would be about $45 a person if they didn't have this assistance. So. And that's for the entire project, not just for the match, obviously required, but they are requiring an exception for that $12,903 that we would otherwise have an expectation of.
All right, any questions? And I just want to make a comment in regards to this because I used to live in the city of Luray, so I know this community very well. I lived there for 7 years. Luray has one of the highest sales tax rates in the state of Kansas currently. And the whole reason when we put in the local match was when this committee was first derived, when we put it in the budget bill 2-3 years ago, we didn't have any stipulations that you had to have a local match. The intent at that time was for communities exactly like this in Savinburg, that are very small communities with limited resources, financial resources, but still have the infrastructure needs that other communities across the state may have. And so even though we did put in the stipulation at one of our, like the 3rd or 4th meeting that we had, that we would encourage a local match, it's for communities like this that when this was all predetermined in the budget bill, it was to help communities like this so they didn't have to drain their resources or go to their community, as Representative Vaughn pointed out with the previous application. Because as I mentioned, they already have the highest sales tax rate. And the reason being is because, well, before I lived there, they had to do the infrastructure needs in regards to their sewage. And that was the way of paying the bond back, was putting it on the sales tax. And there's just and if you look in the comments, I mean, the balance has $1,693 remaining in its utility fund. So that's even the 12.5 would be very difficult, and I'm assuming the city of Savinburg is going to be very similar because they have even a lower population of 74 according to their application. And so I have no problem granting the exemption for these two communities. Are there any questions? Senator Petty.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't disagree with you. I do think that it's important, and you just articulated that we have it clear within our minutes as to why this decision is being made to allow these two to not have to provide the local match. And I'm only saying that because I'm serving on post-audit, and that seems to be an issue that often comes up of not following process and then having an audit. And so I'm just wanting to share that information.
That's fine. Any other questions? Any concerns? All right, we will forward on the application for the city of Luray. And the last application that we have for the grid applications is the city of Savinburg, which I've already kind of mentioned. Jason.
City of Savinburg, 2025-114. This project is to replace the city's outdated electric grid with a modern, more efficient system to improve system reliability and reduce outage durations. So this proposed project would replace the entire existing grid, which was constructed in the 1960s with a new functional grid. The first step will be to install new poles as well as appropriate components such as transformers and power lines. And the city, in this case, the city's electric grid covers an area of roughly 1/4 of a mile square. Again, this Build Kansas Fund request is for $227,000, $227,601.12. And in this case, the applicant is seeking an exemption from the local cash match suggestion. This is an excerpt from their application justifying that. In this case, the match would have been $11,380 at the 5% level. And as you mentioned, their population is only 74 in this case. With that, we bring this application to you for final advice.
Any questions in regards to this application? Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So based on the request they gave, it looks like their total receivables, I'm guessing maybe annually, is that only $15,000 for grid improvements? That's not very much.
Jason or Lynn?
That's, Lynn tells me it's correct. It's correct, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's, and then you said it would be almost over 11,000 to do a 5% match. That would be like their whole budget. Okay, yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? Concerns? All right, seeing none, this final application will be forwarded on as well. So next, we will have the presentation on the airport infrastructure grant applications to the Build Kansas Matching Grant Fund. So Jason, if you'd start off with the city of Wellington.
Sure, and I do have first just a summary
Real quick,
slide
sorry
here.
about that. Lynn, did you have an answer to the question in regards to the city of Bronson?
Not yet.
Okay,
Hopefully by the end of the meeting.
all right.
Sorry.
Thank you. All right, sorry about that, Jason. Go ahead and proceed.
So airport infrastructure grants are ones you've been used to seeing throughout the year. In this case, we've kind of reached a final deadline for airports to claim these funds for the fiscal year. And so the Hub's TA staff has been proactively reaching out to many of these airports to encourage them to apply before the final deadline and not lose that allocation. So that's why you're seeing several all at once here. They're relatively modest requests totaling $253,734. And I will note that in the last year, this program has switched from a previous 10% local or non-federal match requirement to 5% for most rural airports. So the match amount has decreased from what we had been seeing historically. You have seen some of the 5% sprinkled in as that's been implemented. But with that, we'll start with the first application, City of Wellington 2025-100. This project consists of the replacement of the existing medium-intensity taxiway lights, or middles, and guidance sign with new LED light fixtures with cable and conduit. I had to look this one up. They didn't define middles throughout. It must be a term of art in the airport industry that I had to find, but it's to provide an energy-efficient and reliable system for their airport. In this case, the request is $12,838.00. With that, we'll bring this application to you for final advice.
Committee, are there questions in regards to this application for the city of Wellington? All right. Seeing none, any concerns? All right, this will be forwarded on. So next we have the city of Kingman.
Kingman is 2025-113. This project provides funding for the construction of the runway 18-36 parallel taxiway extension from runway 11-29 to runway 18 turnaround to improve airfield geometry and safety. It is needed to improve the airfield geometry and safety and to reduce the amount of back taxi maneuvers. It'll also benefit the community by providing an airport that meets current FAA standards and allows for safer use of the airport. In this case, the Build Kansas Fund requested amount is $9,262.50, and we bring this application to you today for final advice.
All right, committee, are there any questions in regards to this application for the city of Kingman? Any concerns? All right, seeing none, this will be forwarded on as well. The next application is the city of Oberlin. Jason.
City of Oberlin is 2025-116. This project provides for the funding for the construction of an access road and parking lot at the Oberlin Municipal Airport. This is a Build Kansas request of $25,037.00, and we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, committee, any questions? Concerns? All right, seeing none, this will be forwarded on as well. Now to Greeley County. Jason.
Greeley County is 2025-117. This project consists of an easement acquisition of 27.78 acres of land to provide control of the AWOS critical area, which is the automated weather observing systems. It consists of a request for $3,420.00 in Build Kansas Fund request, and we bring it to you today for final advice.
If you could, what is the AWOS critical area?
Automated weather observing systems, and it's 27 acres. And this I actually have some experience with in a prior life, but it's basically the weather radar. For them to not have to take a chunk out of it, they have to have a clear easement area for it.
All right.
So that nothing's developed there. Yeah.
All right, thank you. Any questions for Jason in regards to this application? Concerns? Seeing none, this will be forwarded on. And now we have the city of Atchison.
Atchison is 2025-118. This project consists of the design and construction services phases for the rehabilitation of the apron and north hangar taxi lanes and the reconstruction of the south hangars taxi lanes. This will benefit the community by providing an airport that meets current FAA standards, improves the condition of the existing pavement, and allows for safer use of the airport. It is consistent with the state and local initiative also to promote safety at K59 Highway. This Build Kansas Fund request amount is $13,062.50, and we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, are there any questions in regards to this application from the city of Atchison? Representative Hoffman.
This is not a question necessarily just on this one, but most of these are all right around the same dollar amount. Was there like a maximum that they could ask for?
They receive a potential application based on their service area and size, and so it's determined by the FAA kind of what they can apply, how much they can apply for.
Okay, so it is kind of a number that they're
Yeah.
kind of going after.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Any further questions? Concerns? All right, seeing none, this will be forwarded on now to the city of Ness City. Jason?
Ness City is 2025-119. This project consists of the design for an apron expansion with associated grading, drainage, and pavement markings, and minor modifications to the parallel taxiway. It's expansion of the apron needed to accommodate itinerant aircraft or those stopping for services only and then leaving the area, not based there, currently utilizing the airport. And it's also a new 60 by 90 open bay hangar and offices have been constructed, which is anticipated to increase the activity at the airport, necessitating these changes. It is a request of $5,500.00 and bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, committee, are there any questions in regards to this application? Concerns? All right, seeing none, that'll be forwarded on as well. I believe next we have the city of Osage City. Jason?
Osage City is 2025-120. This project consists of the design for the rehabilitation of runway 17/35 and apron and the reconstruction of the runway lights. In this case, it's designed for crack repair and joint sealing, asphalt paving, pavement marking removal, and replacement on the runway and the apron. They are also replacing their MERL, or medium-intensity runway lights, and middle lighting, the middle and medium-intensity trafficway lighting. Here they noted their asphalt has a very poor condition rating, and the apron is a failed condition rating, and no work has been completed in these areas since early 2000s. And they note that the pavement is a safety issue for aircraft using the airport. Their request is for $25,350.00 in Build Kansas funds, and we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, committee, are there any questions? Concerns? All right, seeing none, this will be forwarded on as well. And next we have the city of Lyons and Rice County. Jason?
City of Lyons and Rice County is 2025-121. This project consists of construction of a four-place T hangar and associated taxi lanes. The hangar will be a pre-engineered metal building system, 42 feet by 181 feet long. Currently, the airport is at capacity, and there's demand for additional hangars to increase the aircraft based at this airport. The project will increase revenue from the airport. And with that, they have a Build Kansas Fund request of $5,400.00, and we bring it to you today for final advice.
All right, committee, any questions? Concerns? All right. Representative Hoffman?
So I noticed it on the last one, and this one's the same. So it looks like that they're going to come next year again with the same amount. They're applying, this is a multi-year ask, I guess.
Right, yeah, we do see that, and there it is often the same amount because their allocation from FAA hasn't changed from year to year.
So to complete the project, they've got several grants and.
Yes, they are also layering it with the Airport Improvement Program or the AIP program, which we do see, like you noted in the prior application and some of the others.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Any further questions? Concerns? All right, seeing none, this will be forwarded on. And now to the final application from the city of Hayes. Jason?
City of Hayes, 2025-122, of course, being a larger city, this is a little bit larger of an ask. It is for a project consists of construction and construction services cost associated with the reconstruction of runway 4-22, including runway turnarounds and a portion of the taxiway. This runway was built in 2004. They've gone through and conducted an audit and cataloged all pavement failures and determined that 893 of the existing concrete panels or about 16% of the entire area, had visible pavement failures. They have also had a difficulty with foreign object debris, or FOD, another term I had to look up. Seems like airport folks just use their acronyms and don't define them. But the runway's been closed for long durations due to safety concerns, due to the crumbling pavement emitting those FODs and potentially damaging aircraft, and so they're wanting to fix that. Their request is for $153,864.00 in Build Kansas funds. And we bring this application to you today for final advice.
Any questions in regard to this application? Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kind of a question. So since they're a larger city, I was kind of looking at the local match since they did just the 5%. But in reading the executive summary, it looks like they've already committed over $63,000 of their own money to fix pavement failures. So they're looking to hopefully prevent future need for that to actually just reconstruct it. Is that correct? So they've dedicated more than just the $8,000 of their own funds
Yes,
in order to
yes,
maintain.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Any other further questions? Concerns? All right, seeing none, this will be forwarded on as well. Okay, so next we're going to move on to the operating expenditures request from the Build Kansas Matching Grant Fund for fiscal year 2026. So Jason, you're presenting that as well. Jason.
I will say I'm pleased to have Brendan Yorkie, Assistant Director of KDOT's Division of Administration, here with me today to help answer any questions that you may have. There is, I believe, a full sheet in your packet. The slide just excerpts a portion of that. But I'm pleased to report that with the hindsight of nearly a year under our belt, operating with operating budget and staff, we were able to pare back and kind of right-size our operational budget in several areas, as noted in that table to the right or at the bottom of your handout. The biggest shifts were in the area of travel. Although we do a lot of travel and we go to a lot of events, we've highlighted that in our reports in the past. We have found, of course, now these days we can do a lot of it virtually. And we just budgeted more the first year than we really needed. Then also under IT development and support, that's really shifted over to professional services. We did a website redesign and shifted our hosting in the first year, and we're now able to conduct that part of our operations more efficiently. And then also just noting that the money, so we have $5 million allocated in the enabling legislation. Last year, the approved budget was $4.297 million. This year, the request is $4,010,904. Any money that's not spent out of the $5 million just is recycled back into the Build Kansas Fund and is available for applicants.
That was my question, is how that, if there's a carryover, where does it sit in the operating budget account, or if it goes over to the Build Kansas, but you said it goes over to the Build Kansas Fund for applicants to be able to utilize.
Yes, yeah.
All right. I do have a question on the sheet that was handed out, or I guess on, whatever slide it is. The hub events, you're reducing that by 59,500. Is there a particular reason why the hub events is being decreased, or just not having as many, or?
No, I think it's really our main event each year is our Infrastructure Summit, which we just held last month in Lindsborg. We had 180 attendees. We were able to cover the cost of lunch for everyone, so it was a free event. We also do our peer-to-peer exchange that we'll do in the fall with grant writers from around the state. But again, so much of what we do now is virtual, and I believe we just over-budgeted the first year. I wasn't involved or here for that process, but Brendan, I don't know if you have anything to add. Yeah. I mean, we're still conducting plenty of events, and most of it's covered under our travel budget.
All right. Are there any questions in regards to the budget for fiscal year 2026? All right. Thank you.
All right.
Lynn, do you have an answer?
I have information. I always hesitate to say if it's an answer.
You have information.
Yes. So on Bronson, I think where the phased is coming in is in 2006, they did some improvements. They also implemented some mitigation efforts with vegetation control and things like that. Not sufficient. Now they need to come back and do additional upgrades on the south side. I think in 2006, it was on the north side. However, they are actually increasing their rates in 2025 and increasing their rates again in 2026. But even with those increases, to keep them reasonable, they don't have the financial resources to do the infrastructure improvements that need to be done. And I will also say, just most of these projects, actually all of them will be technically phased projects because of the way we have to report to DOE. So we have specific milestones that we have to report to DOE. This is as dictated by DOE. So for each project, we have an extensive form that we fill out. Some of the milestones that we have to report on, just so you know, is we have to have an estimated project start date, planning complete, we have to have design complete, regulatory approval, if any is required, including NEPA, environmental impact, anything like that, equipment purchased, construction installed started, construction at 50%, construction completed at 100%, and then a project closeout. So we do have, these projects are over a period of years.
Representative Vaughn.
Mr. Chair, thank you for that information. I was primarily asking about the electric rate increases. I was just hoping that it wouldn't create too much of an undue burden for the citizens, but it does sound like it's maybe part of their larger strategic plan for grid updates.
It is.
Okay.
For their particular area. So that was something that we did take into consideration, but they already had those rate increases kind of planned. They just will not cover everything that they need to do.
Yeah, I think that's a great opportunity for us to help them out. So, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Len. Is there any other community discussion? I guess there was, this be a question for Sade. We don't have to approve their budget. No, all right. I didn't think so. Representative Hoffman and I were just discussing that. Next, we have the approval of the minutes from the March 18th and the April 16th, 2025 meetings. So if you could take a look at those, and I would entertain a motion to either approve or if there are any changes to the minutes. Representative Hoffman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll move for the adoption of the March 18th and the April 16th minutes.
All right, for the motion, seconded by Representative Vaughn. All those in favor of approving the minutes say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, minutes are passed. Well, that's all we have today. You know, we were scheduled to have our meetings on the third Wednesday of each month. Actually, in April and May, that's kind of changed. And then next month, that's probably going to change as well because on June 18th, the Kansas Geological Survey is having their tour on that day. So just stay close to your emails. We'll try to decide on a date that'll hopefully work out for everybody for